Welcome back. We're picking up where we left off with the organization and grouping of all of the parts of the vehicle. We have the body, we have the four wheels grouped and the pivot points placed, and we have found the center of gravity with an overall group node. Notice that those parts are inside the group. All right, now we're also a couple of other housekeeping rules for your rigid surface objects that you're using a hierarchical rig on is to make sure that your vehicle is the proper scale. So go ahead and put your static mesh inside your game engine and make sure that the scale is the proper scale before you rig this object. Once that's complete, make sure that your vehicle is facing down the positive Z axis. You notice the axis locators down here. The Z is pointing forward. Your car should be pointing in the positive Z as well, just like your characters, so that they, when you drive those around your world, they're driving toward the front of the vehicle. Just like your character walks forward, your vehicle needs to drive forward. So once you've got that established and your wheels are on the ground plane, above ground, we use the grid in our world, location right here for each and every viewport. Use that for your ground plane and make sure that those tires are on the ground to start with. All right. Now lastly, you're going to want to make sure that there's no data on your rig components, or excuse me, on your group nodes. Just as we create a rig ready mesh before we actually use it in a bone and skin rig, we also need to make sure that the parts of our vehicle, our group nodes in this case, actually are data free also. So if I select on the group node, notice in the channel box that all of the data in the translate and rotate is 0 and your scale is at 1, which is appropriate. And there's no inputs for that particular container. So in order to make it rig ready, as I say, go down to Edit, drop down, Delete by Type History, and then also Modify drop down, Freeze Transforms. It's got an options box, so make sure you reset that and you freeze those transforms. That way that particular container is rig ready before you begin to use it in the hierarchical rig. All right, lastly, the last housekeeping thing that we need to make sure that we're doing before we begin rigging is creating our handles. Now what I've done is simply use the curve circle. If you come right up here to the shelving, the very first tab is curves and surfaces, and your circle is that very first component. So if you click on that, it'll generate a circle at 0, 0, 0 in the world, and you'll notice this vehicle is very large, so your primitives are going to be very small. So go ahead and scale that up. Make sure you're rotating and putting in an exact figure. Very important when you're rigging to work with precision. Work in orthographic views as much as possible. And you're going to snap to make sure that those are exactly in the appropriate place. I'm going to snap to the center of my wheel hubcap here. And I've got a lot of polygons in here. So for my little laptop, it's taking a little time here. Alright, just go snap that right on the center of your hub. Once you have that established, you're going to offset that so your handle is easy to grab by your animator. Just duplicating the one I've already put out here in the world. And once you have that scaled, positioned, offset in the appropriate location, you'll notice that it has a lot of data and inputs. You're going to come right over, delete by type history, modify, freeze transforms, making sure that that's reset to the defaults. And now you can see that that has no data on it and it is ready to use to wire into our rig. So we are going to go ahead and turn off this video and prepare all of our splines or curves. I'm going to simply use the curves circle for all of my handles here. I need one circular handle. Snap to the center of each hub and offset. That is for the suspension of those 4 wheels independently. So you notice I have one of those at each tire. I also have a small one here in the back. This one I'm going to use to rotate the rear tires, both of them together, so I only need one of those. I also am going to use a node at the front of my vehicle. This is a dual purpose node. What I'm going to do with that is use it to steer my vehicle. You can see those tires moving with the rotation that I have established. And it's also going to drive the rotation. So I want everybody to know how to use to create a dual purpose handle so that you can cut down on the number of nodes that you have for your animator. And finally, that translation node that is all important for your programmer to drive your vehicle around your world. That one lives at 000 location in the world and scaled. A pivot point should remain at that location so that when you drop this vehicle in the level, then it starts from the exact location you expect it to start from, and the code will pick it up and move the vehicle around. Alright, we're going to come back with our handles in place. Remember to make them rig ready. Remember to double check your pivot points and your group nodes, your naming conventions here. The overall group node, being the center of gravity, should be centered on the vehicle, and the vehicle should be centered on the world, with the exception of being above the ground. So center your vehicle on the world, then go ahead and bring up that group until the tires are on the ground, and then you will be ready to put the rig together in a hierarchical fashion. Alright, if you have any questions or need additional information, please contact your professor at the email in the shell. Thank you.